Chairman, we are ready.
All right, thank you. Let's call to order the 1,656th meeting of the Board of Trustees. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Watson. Mr. Watson, are you still?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Nikozison?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Fair?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
All right, we have a quorum.
Can I get a motion to approve the journal of preceding meeting?
So move. Second.
Thank you. I have no comments. On to the report of the board committees. Trustee Watson, can you read the report of the audit committee, please?
Yes. I'm trying to bring it up here.
Take your time.
Okay, the report of the Board of Committees, Audit Committee. Trustee Watson reported that the Audit Committee met on February 1st at 7:30 a.m.
Yes. The wrong one. Wrong one.
That's what she sent me here.
Okay, we're,
Can we pull it up on the screen?
people of the March 1st? We are working on it. Right.
Okay, I got it here.
Okay.
Audit Committee Board Comments Report. The Audit Committee met on March 1st, 2022 at 7:34 a.m. The meeting was attended by Trustee Watson, Evans, Wabi, Wilson, with the Trustees Fair and Nikozison attending online. Chairperson Watson called roll and had no introductory comments. The minutes of February 1st Audit Committee meeting were approved. Next, the personnel from the CPA firm Clifton Lawson Allen LLP presented the required planning communications for the auditing engagement services to be performed for fiscal year 2022, which included the engagement package for the district's entity-wide financial statements, as well as the financial statements for the district's 3 retirement benefit plans. This presentation included information regarding the engagement team, the new DASBs potentially impacting the district, the overall engagement plan, as well as the engagement scope and the related deliverables. There is no board action required at this time. Next, internal audit presented a report for audit engagement that consisted of a review of the district's procedures for processing construction change orders. Specifically, the engagement involved in a review of the district's process and controls in the place for reviewing, approving, and establishing pricing for construction change orders transactions. The scope period for reviewing and testing individual change order transactions was the 3-year period of July 2018 through June 2021. The engagement received a generally satisfaction opinion. 3 opportunities for improvement were presented and discussed with the committee. The items focused on 2 main areas: documenting a review by design personnel and preparing and maintaining appropriate documentation to support the pricing established for each change order. During the presentation, questions were addressed by the internal audit as they were received from the committee. There is no board action required at this time. The next audit committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. The meeting was adjourned at approximately 8:03 a.m. This concludes the audit committee board comments report.
Thank you. Trustee Nikozison, can you read the Program Management Committee report?
I sure can. Good evening, everybody. The Program Management Committee met on March 1st, 2022 at 8:05 a.m. The meeting was attended by trustees Evans, Wilson, Wabi, and Watson, with Nicholson and Fair online. Chairperson Nicholson called roll and had no further comments. The minutes of the February 1st, 2022 Program Management meeting were approved. The agenda items to be introduced tonight were presented and discussed, including a detailed discussion regarding the following items. Ordinance numbers 15874 through 15876. Staff presented details on 2 sewer rehabilitation projects and 1 pump station replacement project being brought to the board for appropriation and contract approval. All projects were within budget and met required MWBE goals for approval. Ordinance number 15877. Staff gave an update on the status of easement acquisitions on 5 parcels of ground for the Amblewood Sanitary Relief Project. Staff continues to negotiate with the property owners, but has been unable to make contact or reach an agreement with the owners. Staff is requesting authorization from the board to move forward with condemnation efforts to allow the project to remain on schedule. Ordinance number 15879, Oracle EBS upgrade to the cloud. Staff provided details of an ordinance that will appropriate $5,350,000 and authorize the district to enter into a contract with AST to migrate the current Oracle Enterprise Business System, EBS, to the Oracle Fusion Cloud. The appropriation includes $400,000 for temporary internal contracted help for project management and implementation support. An additional appropriation for contract support is planned for fiscal year 2023. The next committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for April 5th, 2022. The meeting was adjourned at 8:18 a.m. This concludes the Program Management Board comments report.
Thank you. Trustee Fair, can you read the Finance Committee meeting report?
Certainly. The Finance Committee met on March 1st, 2022 at 8:23 a.m. The meeting was attended by trustees Wilson, Evans, Watson, Wabi, and trustees Nicholson and Fair online. I called roll and had no further comments. The minutes of the February 1st, 2022 Finance Committee meeting were approved. The agenda item to be introduced tonight was presented and discussed, including a detailed discussion regarding the following item. Proposed ordinance number 15880. Director of Finance Marion Gee reviewed this ordinance, which relates to the upcoming issuance of the 2022A refunding bond series. The district will realize gross savings of approximately $18 million over the remaining life of the bonds that are being refunded. The ordinance authorizes a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $46,616,500, which will allow the district to record the transaction in its financial records. Other items discussed during the committee meeting included the following: quarterly pension review. Peter Lemecq and Mike Comstock of Aon provided a performance update of the district's defined benefit and defined contribution plans for the fourth quarter of 2021 and year-to-date 2022. The plan returned 3.8% in the fourth quarter, slightly ahead of the policy benchmark of 3.7%. For the calendar year 2021, the plan returned 10.1%, short of the policy benchmark of 10.8%. Secretary Treasurer Tim Snow provided an update of the participant demographics relating to the pension plan as of December 31st, 2020. Tim also reviewed the district's operating fund portfolio as of February 25th, 2022, and indicated that the portfolio complies with the district's investment policy. The next committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. The meeting was adjourned at 8:55 a.m. This concludes the Finance Committee Board Comments report.
Thank you. Trustee Wilson, can you read the Stakeholder Relations Committee meeting report, please?
Yes, I can. The Stakeholder Relations Committee meeting board comments report. The Stakeholder Relations Committee met on March 1st, 2022 at 8:57 a.m. The meeting was attended by trustees Evans, Wabi, Watson, and Wilson, and via Teams, trustees Fair and Nicholson. Chairperson Wilson called roll and had no further comments. The minutes of the February 1st, 2022 Stakeholder Relations Committee meeting were approved. There were no agenda items for presentation and only a discussion regarding the following item. Brett Berthel gave a presentation regarding the Operations Department's Semiannual Regulatory Compliance Report. Brett's presentation included a summary of various compliance reporting measures, including plant compliance, customer service, and collection systems metrics. The Operations Department continues to work diligently to meet and exceed metric standards. There's no board action required at this time. At approximately 9:11 a.m., the trustees took roll and moved into closed session to discuss legal, confidential, or privileged matters under Section 610.022 parentheses 1. At approximately 10:47 a.m., the trustees moved to conclude closed session and return to open session. The next committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for April 5th, 2022. The meeting was adjourned at 10:48 a.m. This concludes the Stakeholder Relations Committee Board's comments report.
Thank you. Report from the Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 items to cover this evening. The first involves MSD's fiscal year 2023 budget process. The district's charter requires that all board members receive the district's preliminary budget by March 15th. A copy of the preliminary fiscal year 2023 budget was provided to the trustees this evening. The documents consist of a preliminary budget and a budget supplement outlining the proposed capital program, both of which will be posted on the district's website by March 14th. Copies of the documents will be mailed to any board member not physically in attendance this evening. Staff intends to present the preliminary budget at the April 5th Finance Committee meeting. A more detailed presentation will be available after the conclusion of the committee meetings if any board member desires. The Board of Trustees may contact staff regarding the preliminary budget before, during, or after the budget presentation. Staff will request that the Board of Trustees consider introduction of the preliminary fiscal year 2023 budget at its May 12th meeting. At this board meeting, the trustees will also need to appoint a finding of fact committee for consideration of the proposed stormwater taxes. Staff will also schedule a public meeting regarding the preliminary budget that evening, which will begin after the conclusion of the board meeting. The second item concerns the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program, or LIWAP. MSD customers can now receive assistance with their wastewater bills via the federally funded program. The program will provide up to $750 annually for the payment of water and wastewater bills for the next 2 years. Customers should submit applications for assistance with water and sewer bills at the same time, as applications can only be submitted once per year. Applications of city residents can be submitted to the Urban League, and county residents can submit applications to Community Action Agency of St. Louis County or Castle. Applications will be processed in the order they are received. The program will continue until the funding is spent or through September 30th, 2023. Finally, starting with the April 14, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting, MSD plans on opening all full Board of Trustee meetings to public attendance. MSD is considering the exact COVID restrictions that will be needed, including but not limited to masking, social spacing, limited attendance, etc. MSD will communicate the procedure and the restrictions to the public prior to the meeting. MSD's goal during this pandemic has been for the employees to make sure they protect their fellow employees. This will also be our goal with the public. MSD will continue to broadcast all its board meetings, continue to allow virtual public comment as we have in the past to accommodate the needs of all our customers. MSD will continue to monitor the local COVID situation as well as recommendations from the local health authorities and the CDC as we have over the past 2 years. MSD will use this data in considering possible future changes in its COVID provisions. Mr. Chairman, unless the board members have any questions or comments, that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public?
We do. We have 2 comments from the public this evening. The first is from Mike Gerlecki, the Vice President and General Manager of Hollywood and River City Casinos in St. Louis. His comment reads, "Hello, my name is Mike Gerlecki, Vice President and General Manager of Hollywood and River City Casinos, St. Louis. I am making this statement on behalf of the businesses I represent in St. Louis County, as well as in the best interest of the St. Louis County taxpayers and MSD ratepayers. On March 25th, 2021, the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District filed suit against the St. Louis County Collector of Revenue as well as the Howard Bend Levy District, allegedly to protect MSD ratepayers from excessive, improper, and unconstitutional taxes levied annually on MSD by the Howard Bend Levy District. MSD alleged the Howard Bend Levy District levied tens of millions of excessive taxes upon MSD and other property owners within the district and failed to complete work that those taxes were supposed to pay for, to protect property within the district. Yet despite the excessive taxes and incomplete work, the Howard Bend Levy District is still over $22 million in debt. It was recently posted on their website. They've borrowed another $4.5 million. It's currently looking to borrow or receive a federal stimulus bailout of another $20+ million. And on top of all that is floating the idea of another $25 million project. In 2020, MSD's annual levy taxes were increased by approximately 60% to over $477,000 using, according to MSD, a false basis for justification. Let's be clear that $477,000 is paid by individual MSD ratepayers. The MSD lawsuit also alleged the levy district did not perform various required statutory and contractual obligations and artificially increased the assessed tax amount in an effort to meet its financial obligations. MSD further alleged that the Howard Bend Levy District spent over $4 million to build a sanitary sewer system and a potable water infrastructure that has never been used. MSD also alleged that for 14 years, the Howard Bend Levy District has failed and refused to construct a stormwater pump station that is called for by reclamation plans to alleviate flooding within the district, and yet for the third time is seeking to borrow millions of dollars to construct the very pump station. That pump station has been approved 3 times, every time the projected cost increased and yet never built. Via the lawsuit, MSD was seeking to recover $370,000 in uninsured, unreimbursed costs related to the flooding of MSD's wastewater treatment plant in 2016 and 2019 that MSD alleged were caused by contractual breaches and omissions and other failures by the Howard Bend Levy District. Despite all the above, prior to genuine pursuit of its claims, MSD settled the lawsuit. In reading through the settlement agreement, it looks like someone caused MSD to capitulate to Howard Bend's practice of hiding what it does and where taxpayer money goes. Despite all the above allegations, MSD dismissed the lawsuit based on a purposefully vague settlement agreement which does not address the issues MSD complained of and does not provide any real relief in levy taxes paid by individual MSD ratepayers. MSD had the opportunity to push for transparency and stop the wasteful spending of Howard Bend that individuals ultimately pay for, but it walked away from the lawsuit without explanation. All large entities in this and other levy districts should be working together to achieve responsible, transparent, accountable functioning of these levy districts. In the Howard Bend Levy District, attempting to tally up the total amount of money that has been wasted in the past and is now being sought is getting more and more difficult as time passes. With the new debt, money sought through federal stimulus, and the new plan, money spent on Horner Schifrin engineering and Hush Blackwell legal fees, the total dollar amount spent and owed in this district alone is well over $100 million. And for what? That is an outstanding amount. How can that be tolerated? Briefly, in a little more detail, while the settlement agreement provides for the Howard Bend Levy District to pay MSD $200,000 at some point in time, that payment is for an easement with no indication that the easement is necessary or that the value is appropriate. And while there is a reference to a possible reduction in assessments, careful review shows that MSD did not obtain any real reduction in its levy assessments. Upon thorough review of the agreement, MSD did not obtain redress for any of its complaints nor any relief for taxpayers. The agreement seems to reveal the same Howard Bend rhetoric that if developers come, the finances of the district will improve. This mindset is a large reason for the problems of this levy district for the past 15 or 20 years. All of the same individuals have been in control of this district, and its gross financial mismanagement, inadequate accounting, lack of transparency in setting assessments, commingling of funds, amongst other things that have been in effect for the last 2 decades. And now all of a sudden MSD has trust in some of these same people and trust that this will now work. Highlighting and reaffirming these very same concerns, a Perry County judge ruled on January 7th that the Boys Rural Levy District's methodology for taxing MoDOT and BNSF Railway lacks a rational basis and is arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable. Both were successful in arguing the levy district's methodology was demonstrably inaccurate and merely designed to shift the cost burden to parties with deeper pockets. Again, if MSD chose to put some basic elbow grease into its lawsuit, MSD could have achieved the same result and relief as in Perry County for taxpayers here. MSD's lack of transparency and dropping its lawsuit with nothing achieved is confounding, to say the least. The lack of due diligence regarding this current situation and improper oversight of millions of dollars of payments over the years by MSD to the Howard Bend Levy District is inexcusable. As well as seeing the settlement agreement again, accomplished truly nothing for the taxpayers in St. Louis County or ratepayers of MSD is more than disappointed. If members of the MSD leadership team, like the Director of Operations and attorneys advising them, are not going to protect the interest of us, they should think hard about whether they have fulfilled their duties to us, and if they cannot do their job, then they should simply resign. I'm asking for a third-party external audit to be called for by the Board of Trustees and an investigation to be called by the same, possibly using the Missouri Public Service Commission to determine if in fact there was any benefit to filing a lawsuit in the first place. What relief or financial benefit came out of this? Were the past millions of dollars of taxes paid to the Howard Bend Levy District justified? Why the Levy District continues to do backroom deals, operate in a manner inconsistent with statutes, make arbitrary assessment and maintenance tax agreements and amounts as similar with TriStar Development in the city of Maryland Heights, as well as what type of reassessment should be done within the district to ensure that the taxpayers and ratepayers are not going to further be continually overburdened by this failing levy district. Thank you very much, Mike Gerlecki. That was the first comment. We have one more public comment. This comes from Tom Sullivan. It is for the MSD Board of Trustees meeting tonight, March 10th, 2022. And his comment is, I hope that when the budget for the next fiscal year is being planned, there is consideration for increasing the amount paid for property damage caused from overcharged sewers. Thank you for listening to my comments. And that is what we had for public comments.
Thank you. We have the submission of public hearing reports.
There are none.
Any communications?
There are none.
On to the consent agenda.
Okay. So the consent agenda is items 10 through 25. However, we do have 3 items to be pulled, 2 for a separate vote, items 10 and 13. Then item 22 is a staff request to pull for action at a later time. As it stands right now, the consent agenda vote will be for items 11 through 12, 14 through 21, and 23 through 25. Is there any board member who would like to pull any of those items for a separate vote? Hearing none, for those items, is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second.
All right, thank you. Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Nikozison?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson? Ms. Fair?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
All right, we'll go to item 10, which is the adoption of proposed ordinance number 15857, $500,000 for Park Drive Sanitary Relief Project and a contract with Kolb Grading. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Nikozison?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Fair?
Abstain.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Item 13, which is the adoption of proposed ordinance number 15860 for cost sharing for green infrastructure construction in a Westminster Place project in St. Louis. For this one, given that at least 5 trustees are present and at least 1 trustee has indicated a desire to abstain from the vote on this item, are there any objections to the suspension of Board Rule 2? I don't hear any. I think that was Board Rule 14. Like that. Hearing none, is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Nikozison?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Abstain.
Ms. Fair?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
All right, with the 4 affirmative votes, that motion passes. And that is the end of the consent agenda, so that takes us to new business. We'll start with ordinances as usual. Item 26 is the introduction of proposed ordinance number 15874, making an appropriation of $2.4 million from the Sanitary Replacement Fund to be used for sanitary sewer rehabilitation in the Bissell Coldwater, Missouri Merrimack Public I&I Reduction Contract B project in the cities of Bell Fountain, Neighbors, Florissant, Woodson Terrace, and unincorporated St. Louis County, and authorizing the district to enter into a contract with Insidiform Technologies. Is there a motion for introduction?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Nikozison?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Fair?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Item 27, the introduction of proposed ordinance number 15875, making an appropriation of $1.6 million from the Sanitary Replacement Fund to be used for pump station improvements in Earth City Expressway Pump Station Replacement Project in unincorporated St. Louis County, and authorizing the district to enter into a contract with Kelp Contracting. Is there a motion for introduction?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Nikozison?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Fair?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Item 28 is the introduction of proposed ordinance number 15876, making an appropriation of $1.8 million from the district-wide stormwater fund to be used for storm Sewer rehabilitation and the stormwater infrastructure repairs project in the city of St. Louis and various municipalities in St. Louis County and unincorporated St. Louis County, and authorizing the district to enter into a contract with In Situ Form Technologies. Is there a motion for introduction?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 29, the introduction of proposed ordinance number 15877, declaring the necessity for the acquisition of easements and temporary easements and certain real property within the district for the purpose of construction of sewers and related appurtenances in the project known as Amblewood Sanitary Relief in the city of Florissant to serve needs of residents of the area, and authorizing staff to proceed with further condemnation efforts related to the project. Is there a motion for introduction?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 30 is the introduction of proposed ordinance number 15878, making a supplemental appropriation of $1 million from the Sanitary Replacement Fund to be used for planning, design, and engineering during the construction phase services in the SCADA systems upgrade project in various locations within the district, and authorizing the district to amend a contract with EMA Incorporated. Is there a motion for introduction?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 31, the introduction of proposed ordinance number 15879, making a supplemental appropriation of $5.35 million from the general fund to be used for professional services to upgrade the district's Oracle EBS to Oracle Fusion Cloud, and the Oracle EBS upgrade to the cloud project district-wide, and authorizing the district to enter into a contract with AST. Is there a motion for introduction?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 32, the introduction of proposed ordinance number 15880, making a supplemental appropriation of $46,616,500 from the 2022A Revenue Bond Principal and Interest Fund for the partial repayment of outstanding principal on the 2012A and 2012B bonds, which will be partially refunded by the 2022A bonds. Is there a motion for introduction?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
All right, that takes us to resolutions. The first one is item 33, the adoption of resolution 3732, expressing the Board of Trustees' appreciation to Lester E. Fenton for his 42 years of exemplary service to the district from November 5th, 1979 to his retirement effective March 1st, 2022. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
So moved.
Mr. Watson,
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 34 is the adoption of resolution 3733, expressing the Board of Trustees' appreciation to Janice A. Fenton for her 39 years of exemplary service to the district from March 12th, 1982 to her retirement effective March 1st, 2022. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 35, the adoption of resolution 3734, expressing the Board of Trustees' appreciation to Lorraine Jackson for her 24 years of exemplary service to the district from February 2nd, 1998 to her retirement effective March 1st, 2022. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 36 is the adoption of resolution 3735, expressing the Board of Trustees' appreciation to Gerald J. Keaveney for his 31 years of exemplary service to the district from June 15th, 1990 to his retirement effective March 1st, 2022. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 37, the adoption of resolution 3736, expressing the Board of Trustees' appreciation to Ronald A. Roterfeld for his 16 years of exemplary service to the district from February 6, 2006 to his retirement effective March 1st, 2022. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 38 is the adoption of resolution 3737, expressing the Board of Trustees' appreciation to Herb E. Thiel for his 35 years of exemplary service to the district from May 21st, 1986 to his retirement effective March 1st, 2022. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Item 39, the adoption of resolution 3738 to exercise option year 1 of a contract previously authorized by ordinance 15613, adopted February 11th, 2021, that authorized the district to enter into a contract with Stantec Consulting Services to provide professional services, rate commission support, in the infiltration and inflow cost allocation services project throughout the district service area. Is there a motion for adoption?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholasison,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
All right, that takes us to the end of the agenda, Mr. Chair. There's no further business.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, everybody.
Second.
Thank you.